Hey guys, Thinking here, bringing you another Dragon Ball Z Dokkan battle video, and so today we are going to be going through the team building guide for the youth stage of Super Battle Road, and this one, there's only two main leaders, but there are a lot of units in the category, including a lot of LRs. So as always, let us go over my top picks as well as the honourable mentions, and again, as always, let me know if there's any units that you think I should have talked about or that we missed down below in the comments after the video. So starting off with the new one of the newer units on global, the Gotenks. He's the main reason why I thought they were waiting to release these Super Battle Road stages until the thank you celebration, because one of the friends that the game offers you to bring as a free leader is either this guy or the Kid Goku. So because he was kind of built into the way the stage works, I was assuming they were waiting for him to drop till we got the stages. But for some reason, we had to wait until now. But there you go. So he has Ki +3, HP and Attack 170, Defense 130 as his lead. I think he's probably the better lead overall compared to the Kid Goku. But he's a very solid unit. Turn 1, without transforming, he has a decent amount of attack and defense. He also greatly raises defense on super attack, so once he supers, he's going to have pretty good defense. And then he transforms on turn 3 into Super Saiyan Gotenks, where not only does he still greatly raise defense, does immense damage, and has a 70% chance to stun. So this guy, really, really good for Super Battle Road. And then, of course, he has a lot of RNG involved in his passive, but in his best case scenario, he has a huge amount of both attack and defense, as well as a built-in chance to perform an additional super attack. So obviously if you have dupes or skill orbs invested into him, he could potentially super attack 3 times in the one turn, each of which has a 70% chance to stun the enemy. So he's really good. Super Saiyan 3 Gotenks you'll probably never see. If you do somehow manage to get as far in as to see him transform, then you're probably just going to be cleaning up whoever's left with him. So probably not going to see that very often, but he is a very powerful unit. Just based alone on the strength of his Super Saiyan form, he is definitely one of the best units on this team, which is why it's definitely worth bringing him as a leader. Or if you don't have him, definitely bring him as the friend leader. So the other main summonable leader is, of course, the Kid Goku. He gives 150 across the board to stats and 3 ki. He does immense damage with his super attack, has a medium chance to stun, which is still good. And then, of course, he has 77% attack and defense. He gets an additional boost of attack the more HP you have remaining, and then a defense boost by the less HP remaining. So obviously, as you start to drop lower in health, he will tank better, which is what you want. And then he gets Ki +1, attack and defense 10% at the start of each turn, up to attack and defense 59%. So obviously as the turns go on, he gets a little bit tankier, but you know, each particular stage is probably not going to go on for super long. You're probably not going to max out his passive, because you'd have to have him appear 6 times in order to do so. But you might get to turn 6, I guess, if he's on turn 1. And then, of course, if you drop below 59% HP, once only for the turn, he will get an automatic crit on all of his attacks, even if you get additionals, including the ability to use his active skill, which does a huge amount of damage, and of course, because it's baked into the same part of his passive, will be a guaranteed crit. So this can be activated solely based on your HP and not on a turn restriction. So, just like the Spirit Bomb Goku that we talked about for reps of Universe 7, you could get into a situation where you finish a fight below 59% HP, go into the next fight, and then this guy is going to get his guaranteed crit and be able to use his active skill literally on turn 1, which means you'll be going into the fight starting off with a whole bunch of free damage, which is obviously very good. And then coupled with his chance to stun, your ideal situation is obviously going to be going into a new fight, use the active skill to do a big bunch of damage, then target somebody else for him to attack. He'll get a guaranteed crit and maybe get the stun. And then obviously the rest of the team's attacks could then focus on whoever you active skilled. And you may even take somebody out in the first turn, depending on how the RNG for the rest of the turn goes with crits and additionals for everybody else. So very good. The only thing that lets him down a little bit, of course, is that being a Dragon Ball character, his links aren't the best with later like Dragon Ball Z or Super characters. Like he doesn't have prepared for battle, for example, but he has fierce battle, he has all in the family, Kamehameha, innocence, couple of links that you can find on this team. Plus he does kind of help himself out by getting that little bit of extra ki each turn as well. So he definitely is a solid option. If you only have this guy, not the Gotenks, definitely don't be too concerned, because he still is a very good unit for this stage as well. So the other choice you have for a lead who's not like a super low level is the Goku and Bulma that was the Super Battle Road reward for the previous category stages that we had, however long ago those came out. Now these ones are a bit interesting because to fully maximize them, you need to try and include as many, obviously everyone's going to be youth, but as many Dragon Ball Saga and Dragon Ball Seekers characters on the team as you can if you want to fully max out their passive. But obviously I feel like whilst they are good, I don't know if I would bring them on my team. I've really only included them here because they can be a really good substitute leader, because they do have the 120% and free ki leader skill. And obviously because they technically are free to play, you know, at least even just to get one copy, and that's all you really need in order to use their leader skill, they will be the best stand-in leader. So other than that, I probably wouldn't bring them, but if you have to rely on them as a lead, because obviously Kid Goku, Gotenks is one of the newest Dokkan Fests and obviously has not been back yet. Kid Goku's been back a couple of times, but depending on how much you summon, maybe you don't have him. So these guys are a decent enough stand-in, but that's probably all I would recommend using them for. So then we go on to a very powerful combo that you can run on this team. And one of the reasons, like the secret powerhouse, I guess, not really a secret, but of the youth team is that all the youth Gohans are on here. So of course you can run the AGL Gohan and you can run the new Tech Gohan. And whilst they don't link up the best, they're not like each other's best link partner. Running these two as a rotation will obviously be incredibly powerful. Now, in Super Battle Road, AGL Gohan isn't like a super monster tank on turn 1. But once he gets off a super or two, he does become insanely good defensively. So he's going to be very strong. And if you are able to run the rotation of these two together, the AGL one is slightly better defensively. So you put him in slot 1 and then have this guy go off in slot 2. And potentially deal a huge ton of damage. So these guys are going to be very, very powerful together. And obviously, if you're like most people, you're just trying to get the stage done, you don't care about using items or however many you use. If you put these two together and then just activate like a Icarus, they're not going to take any damage. Maybe from a super, especially I guess from type disadvantage, but they're going to be able to dish out a ton of damage. Now obviously neither of them will be able to get their active skill. Gohan cannot transform on this team. You don't fight any androids or anything like that, so he's never going to transform. And then obviously this Gohan, the thing for his passive specifies a Movie Heroes Goku and also specifies that youth is excluded. So you're never going to be able to get his active skill or the last part of his passive, but he's still a very powerful unit even without utilizing that part of his kit. So then we go on to Bipan. I think we talked about her already, probably in the Goku family video. She's just a very solid tank. She can stun on super attack. She heals you based on the damage that she does. And then, of course, she has the active skill that you can use on turn 3, which basically means you're going to always see that in every single fight. Because if you don't make it to turn 3, it's probably because you're dead. So that gives everybody else a nice attack buff. If you get her float into the 3rd spot on the turn where you're running like the double LR Gohan's rotation, then they are going to absolutely destroy everything with her passive skill active. So I feel like for me, she probably is an auto-include on this team, even if you usually just float her off in the 3rd spot. So then we have the Trunks and the Goten. We talked about them in the Movie Heroes one, so if you want more detail about them, definitely check that one out if you haven't already. But really the main strategy is just to run these two together as a rotation, because once supering, as long as the opposite one is on the turn with them, they get a bunch of extra damage reduction. So obviously if they're in slot 1 and they're getting hit before they super attack, their damage reduction isn't as much as it is after supering, so they could potentially take damage, especially from super attacks. But once they've supered, they're going to tank super well. They link really well together, and regardless of which one you put first, they also raise allies' attack on super, so they're going to be benefiting whoever goes second with that extra attack buff as well. Plus, whoever's in the third slot is obviously going to benefit from both of these guys going off in the same turn. So these guys could be a very strong rotation. Then we have the Bulma. This is a proper shout out back to the past. I don't even know if I've used this unit for literal years at this point. But when the OG mono stages of Super Battle Road first came out, she was probably one of the top picks for the Super Tech team back then. So she hasn't had any love in recent years. She's a free-to-play unit that I could definitely see getting an easy A at some point. But even without it, she can be pretty decent. And obviously on this team, depending on who else you're bringing, she is another Dragon Ball Saga character. So she does have those links, meaning she'll be good for pairing up with the Kid Goku or for helping out the passive of the AGL LR Goku Bulma. But yeah, she can heal you based on rainbow key spheres obtained, and then she has a great chance to reduce damage by 50%. Now, obviously, you know how I feel about RNG related defensive passives. If you've got no items active and the great chance doesn't go off, then potentially she is going to take quite a bit of damage. And obviously, as a free-to-play unit, especially one that only does supreme damage and doesn't get any attack in her passive, she's not going to be doing a lot of damage. But she's a solid free-to-play option for people who need to fill out that extra slot or just don't have any other good Dragon Ball units that they want to pair up with Kid Goku. I think she could still be useful on the team. So then we have the Gotenks and Ghost. MVP, I'm sure everybody expected them to be in this video. Greatly raises attack and defense in one turn after his easy A, so once he supers, he tanks really well. He does supreme damage and has a 50% chance to stun, so that's obviously really good as well. He changes a random type of orbs to rainbow. He gets attack and defense 7% per key sphere obtained of any type, but then he also recovers 9,999 HP and gets attack and defense 30% per rainbow key sphere obtained. So if you can get good RNG with the orb changing and then pick up 3 or 4 rainbow orbs for him, not only is he getting a huge attack and defensive buff, and then he greatly raises it on his super attack and has the 50% chance to stun, and he's got great links as well. This guy absolutely is once you select your leader, you should then select this guy. He is the absolute must run after your leader unit, I would say. And especially now, he was super valuable before, but his easy A just made him so much better that, yeah, I feel like almost any stage that you can run this guy on, you probably should, because he's just that good. So yeah, what more do we need to say about Gotenks and Ghost? So then we have this Pan. Now, the reason I selected this Pan is she's been around for ages. She's not the best unit, but she links up incredibly well with B-Pan. And if you're lacking other options for units, the rotation of her and B-Pan together is actually really good. She has a built-in chance to dodge, which on turn 1 is only 15%, but will build up to 60%. She gets a very decent amount of defense for the first 7 turns, which obviously Super Battle Road, you're probably not going to go much longer than 7 turns, if you go longer than 7 turns at all. And then she raises defense by 30% for 6 turns on super attack. So basically, once you're 2 or 3 turns in with her, she's going to be getting a decent built-in chance to dodge, and then her defense is going to be really, really high. And then obviously if you're pairing her on rotation with B-Pan, depending on who you put in the first slot, I would say probably her, then B-Pan goes second and attacks and basically heals back pretty much most of the damage that this Pan will have taken, unless she got super attacked, I guess, and then she will still take a fair bit of damage. So whilst I don't think she's a top pick, I think she's an honourable mention for somebody who needs to fill that slot on their team and is running the B-Pan anyway. I would say if you're not running B-Pan to link her up with, she's probably not as worth bringing. But again, if you're really strapped for youth units, she can still be pretty good, even if you do just use her as a 3rd slot floating unit. So then we have the STR Super Saiyan Gotenks. He's actually really good for Super Battle Road. He was one of the units that I used on the Fusion no items run, because when you have multiple enemies, he gives all allies Key +1 and attack and defense 40%, which is really, really good. He has a reasonable enough amount of attack and defense himself, which he then raises on super attack. He does supreme damage, and he has a medium chance to stun, which is 30%. So he can do a little bit of everything. Obviously, he's best when you have the multiple enemies still alive, because he provides that massive support buff. But again, if you're running units like the actual Dokkan Fest Gotenks or the Gotenks and Ghosts, this guy fits perfectly onto the team just because he's going to link up so well with all of those units, as well as providing that little bit of extra support as well. So he's very, very good. And then, last but not least, we have the physical version of the Super Saiyan Gotenks. Now, obviously, you can't run both of them. I do think the STR one's probably slightly better for Super Battle Road. But the physical one, with his Easy A, is very good as well. Because sealing is very strong in Super Battle Road. The number one way you die is because a unit takes a super where you didn't really want a unit to take a super. And they take way too much damage and it's game over. So, sealing is very powerful. Now, obviously, turn 1, he basically has no defense, right? So you don't want to put him in slot 1. But with each super attack performed, he gets 30% defense up to 120. Now, once he's super attacked 4 times and got 120% defense, that's actually pretty solid. But of course, the problem is, especially in Super Battle Road, the run is not necessarily going to go on long enough for him to have super attacked 4 times. And he's a little bit of a defensive liability before that. But because of his great link set with the other Gotenkses and the fact that he seals, he is still a decent choice for the team. But I would say that the STR one is probably better. So, going back to the youth team, obviously we've got the free-to-play options. You've got the Great Saiyaman Trunks and this Goten. You'd be really hard-pressed if you have to use them as the leads, because they're not the best choices, of course. But it is what it is. Goku and Arale can be pretty decent. Goten and Trunks, whilst they can hit very decent attack stat numbers, their defense is not very good. Gohan is a perfect example of this. He can hit incredibly hard, but his defense is not good for Super Battle Road. This Gohan is only really good when there's a Goku on rotation, and I'm pretty sure it excludes Youth Goku as well. I don't know if I just said Gohan on rotation, but you need a Goku on rotation, which you obviously can't run on the youth team, because I'm pretty sure it specifies that you can't use the youth Goku. Yes, so you can't. There's no point using him, because without his damage reduction, he's not a good unit for Super Battle Road. So this Pan, I guess you could bring over the STR one if you're running a very AGL heavy team, because she is the 50% support, but her own defense is pretty bad, even if you do pick up a decent amount of orbs. I should have talked about this guy. We talked about him on Movie Heroes, and I think maybe Goku's family as well. So we've definitely talked about this unit before. But he can be very useful because of the stun, built-in chance to dodge, and then, of course, the fact that he can give you a free heal, which is always going to be very useful. Goku Jr. is okay, but his defense is not very good. The Great Saiyaman 4 is okay, but his defense takes ages to build up, so I don't really know about him. Goten can be okay. He's an orb changer, which is nice. Because he's an Easy A unit, his defense is fairly solid overall, but he's definitely not one of the tankier units on the team. We didn't really talk about Oob, actually. I guess because he's a newer unit. Kind of forgot about him. But he's fairly decent. He takes a while to build up to his full defense, though, which can be a liability in Super Battle Road. And then, of course, I don't think there are... Actually, there could be World Tournament allies. Enemies. Who's actually on the youth one? See, this Roshi, will he count? This guy will count as a... This final fight counts as World Tournament. I don't know if the second one will. Or the first one. Because, like, these guys, this guy comes off of the World Tournament banner. So, let's see. Yes, he's not in World Tournament. So, the World Tournament part maybe not going to come into play. So, I don't know if this guy is a good choice. But let me know what you guys think. He could probably be usable, but... his link set is probably not the best for the team as well. But there you go. So that is the youth team. Those are the top picks and the honourable mentions. As I said at the beginning, and I say in every one of these, if you think there's any units that I missed or that you think we should talk about in more detail, let me know down below in the comments. And obviously, if you need any further team building advice or have any general questions, let me know those down below as well. So that is going to be it for the video, guys. This has been the Master Ningen. Smash that like button, subscribe to the channel if you are new. Check out the link to my Discord in the description. Feel free to join in the fun over there. And I will see you all again soon. Have a good one.